Well, it's the beginning of another week. Good evening. Welcome. This is Ghana Tonight. We are live from News about Desawe Kanda. Also live on TV3 Ghana on Facebook, DSV channel 279. We're all across the world on 3news.com. I am Alfred Okonse. Tonight, ministers designate for roads and highways, education and agriculture ministries take their turns before the appointments committee of Parliament. We have the highlights and all the relevant conversations on this and plus some reactions as well for you here on Ghana Tonight. Stay with us. Also, tonight it has emerged that the government of Ghana owes road contractors in excess of 100 billion cedis due to unpaid debts by the ex-Wale Akufo-Addo Bawumia administration. We'll assess how this will impact on the roads and highways industry as a whole going forward. Also, we have an update on the unfortunate fatal clash in Obuasi, which claimed lives, including the position of some Ghana coalition that's a coalition against Galamsey on the matters of illegal mining. As always, you're an integral part of the conversation. Let's hear from you. The hashtag we're using is GhanaTonight on Facebook and on X. Let's get talking. Let's settle for Ghana Briefs.
The Minister-designate for Education, Haruna Idrisu, has disclosed that first-year tertiary students who have already paid their admission fees will receive a refund of their money. The Tamale South MP revealed that the government will earmark 345 million cedis to cover admission fees for students enrolled in general subject areas at tertiary institutions.
On the authority of President Mahama, I'm sure his Minister of Finance, if this House approved, the Honorable Atuforson, will present the reset budget of the government. It will include some provision of some 345 million cedis to cater for admission fees for students undertaking courses in the normal subject areas, not professional areas like medicine. And for President Mahama, this is a model to experiment. You will look at it. How do we fare as a country? If it's possible for expansion, then he will expand it. And he's not asked that if you are able, you should not. We know that some students have already paid their admission fees. It will be refunded to them when I will do that.
Minister-designate for Roads and Highways, Governs Kwame Abuja, has revealed the ministry is already riddled with a debt of over 100 billion cedis left by the erstwhile government. He made the shocking revelation at the ministerial vetting process in Parliament today.
As of today, I've not been to the ministry yet. What they presented to the committee, the NPP government is leaving a minimum of 100 billion Ghana cedi commitment. What you should be worried about, though, is that in that same document, they are saying that certificates unpaid as of today from GOG amounts to about 20 billion Ghana cedis. The ones with road fund is about 15 billion Ghana cedi.
Thugs have clamped down on the business operations of intercity transport shuttle service 2M Express. The thugs besieged the company on January 7, 2025, in which they took over the operation of the privately owned commercial washroom business. According to management of the company, failure to dole out money to the thugs resulted in closing down the company on Monday, January 20th, 2025.
Everything that is legal pertaining to the ownership of the place or to the lease of the place, we have followed the due process.
The Minority Caucus in Parliament is calling on President John Dramani Mahama and the top hierarchy of the police service to control what it describes as a high level of lawlessness and violence by the NDC supporters after the declaration of Mahama as president. Jerry Ahmed Sahib is the second deputy minority whip.
To President Mahama, we call on you to take immediate steps to call your party tax to order. You cannot pretend to be unaware of all this lawlessness and violence in this country. We also call on the Ghana Police Service, IGP Dampari. We call on you and the entire election security task force to rise up to this occasion and enforce law and order without hesitation.
Relative calm has returned to Obuasi a day after a bloody clash between the military and some miners who allegedly invaded Anglo Gold Ashanti mining concession. 9 of the miners lost their lives, while others sustained life-threatening injuries.
We don't want anyone to take the laws into your own hands. The president, in whom you trust, and for that matter, you voted for him massively, has assured the community and every stakeholder that he's going to pursue the matter to its meaningful conclusion. We want everyone to remain calm. The security officers are expected to be our friends. They're expected to protect us. They are not our enemies. So in a manner where you have a confrontation with them, then we have to really delve to understand what really happened, for which reason the people who are expected to protect us, we are having that confrontation whatsoever.
On 3news.com, make some time and visit 3news.com. This is Ghana Tonight. Coming up next, the incoming Minister for Roads and Highways, Governor Kwame Agboja, a Daklo Member of Parliament, may have to start off with some negatives to the balance sheet of that particular ministry, as dead old road contractors alone stands over 100 billion cedis. That's the initial indication given today. He's been speaking about this at the Appointments Committee when he appeared before them for the vetting earlier today. And in fact, this particular issue has generated some conversation reconciling that to as against what the former Finance Minister, Dr. Mohamed Amin Adam, said sometime in May, that some 49 billion had been paid to road contractors. But first of all, take a listen to Governor Kwame Agboja earlier today in front of the Appointments Committee of Parliament.
We are not bringing toll booths back. It will be deployed on a platform, which means that there wouldn't be physical toll booths where
All right, so that's Governor Kwame Agboja there talking about how much the contractors are owed. But if you recall, sometime in May last year, there was that particular reference of some 49 billion. That was according to the former Finance Minister, Dr. Mohamed Amin Adam, that some 49 billion cedis had been paid road contractors. That was as of May last year. So really, what exactly is the full composition of the debt owed contractors in this country? Let's take a listen to exactly what he said. Take a look.
As of today, I've not been to the ministry yet. What they presented to the committee, the NPP government is leaving a minimum of 100 billion Ghana cedi commitment. What you should be worried about, though, is that in that same document, they are saying that certificates unpaid as of today from GOG amounts to about 20 billion Ghana cedis. The ones with road fund is about 15 billion Ghana cedi. What you should be more worried about, my brothers and sisters and colleagues listening to us from outside of this hall, is that if you take the indebtedness up to 2025, which is the road fund debt alone, out of the 15 billion, look at these details. In 2018, we were owing about 113 million Ghana cedi. The interest on the 113 million Ghana cedi this year will be 665 million Ghana cedi. The debt was 113. The interest on the 113 is 665 million. When you take 2019, 210 million. The interest on the 230 million is 960 million Ghana. 2020, we were owing 424 million. The interest on the 424 million is 1.5 billion. 2021, the debt was 616 million. The interest on that is currently 1.69 billion. 2022, 693 million, and currently 1.4 billion. The question is, how do I explain this to the taxpayers in Adaklu? That we owe 113 million, and the interest on the 113 million is 665 million.
Well, that's Governor Kwame Agbodja. And you see, that sense of frustration that he expressed in there is what generated that conversation that, look, how come that there was an interest of just a debt of a little over 113 million, and we're talking about this interest, accumulated interest over time. If you didn't catch what he said in words, follow me closely in this graphical expression, because what you just heard him say is what we're representing here in the accumulated interest in the road sector, specifically with respect to the debt. We're not even talking about the debt in itself. We're talking about the interest on the debt, that is the amount that was supposed to be paid. It is this interest that, according to Governor Kwame Agbodja, has been increasing over time because we've not been paying our debts in the road sector. So take a look at this. In 2018, he said, as of that time, the accumulated interest there is 665 million cedis. Add that to 2019, went up to 960 million cedis because we weren't paying our debt. 2020 increased to 1.5 billion cedis. 2021, a little over 1.69 billion cedis. And it's actually been on the ascent. It's talking about 2022, just a little over 1.4 billion cedis as well. So this is just interest. And bear in mind, interest and not the principal or the debt in its whole. But let's understand the real picture of how the debt really look like as we speak, especially for the local contractors in this country, because a number of them have always raised questions about they being relegated to the background whenever there's some payment to be done. The foreign contractors are mostly, or contractors that are giving contracts by government to companies that are not Ghanaian owned, are mostly prioritized over and above the Ghanaian contractors. Well, the Ghana Chamber of Construction and Industry, the president, chief executive, is joining us right now, Emmanuel Cherry. Mr. Cherry, good evening. We'll reconnect with him shortly to give us an idea of how things are playing out when it comes to how the debt really looks like and for the industry. And bear in mind that if you're seeing commitments to roads being constructed, it has to be with the availability of funds to execute those road construction and the promise to construct more roads, as has been captured in the NDC manifesto. So if you see this debt, they're telling us the reality of what we are confronted with right now. Juxtapose that with the expectations of the people. How will that be executed or be fulfilled? Governor Kwame Agbodja has been giving indication of what will be captured in the 2025 budget, eventually presented. We're looking forward to that in the next weeks ahead of us. We'll have a quick conversation on that. But on the matter of we'll come back to Emmanuel Cherry shortly. He's having some difficulty connecting with us on Zoom. But that was not the only matter that Governor Kwame Agbodja was asked. On the matter of road tolls were suspended years ago. It's about 4 years ago, by the actual administration to make way for the establishment and the promotion of the e-levy. The e-levy has come through. We've seen the amount that has accrued to government coffers over the period that has been implemented. Well, guess what? Governor Kwame Agbodja says that the road tolls abolition years ago was illegal, and that he, as minister, on behalf of the president, is going to reintroduce road tolls. This is what he said before the Appointments Committee. Take a look.
bringing toll booths back. It will be deployed on a platform, which means that there wouldn't be physical toll booths where.
Joe Jackson is a financial analyst and chief executive of Dalex Finance, joining us on Zoom right now. Mr. Jackson, appreciate your time. Thank you for joining us here on Ghana Tonight. First, I want to find out from you. This doesn't come as a surprise, is it not? With this statement of commitment from the Roads and Highways Minister designate that road tolls abolished will be brought back. Mr. Jackson.
Okay, now, a number of things. First of all, we've got to realize that there is quite significant tension between some of the desires that have been expressed by the nominees, especially the nominee for the Minister of Finance. He says on one hand, I will take away some taxes, e-levy. I'll take away the betting tax. But yet, significantly, he says that he wants to take Ghana's tax to GDP ratio from the current numbers of about 14% all the way to 18% of GDP. That is going to be a minimum 20% increase in our tax revenues. That's a lot. And the key thing is that on one hand, we're taking away some tax handles. On the other hand, we are saying we want to increase tax. So we should expect that what we're going to get is going to be a mix match, hodgepodge of taxes thrown away and taxes coming in. Because listen, there are only three ways you can increase taxes. One is create new tax handles. Number two is increase the tax net or the tax bracket, or reduce the tax incidence of tax evasion. Now, number 2 and 3, however desirable they are, they take time to implement. And the same Minister of Finance designate told us that there's a bill of 6.8 billion due in February to service our debt. That is an immediate and pressing bill that must be paid. So that road taxes are going to come back. Nobody should be shocked, because there are really hard, tough decisions to be taken, because the public purse is empty. Ghana is broke, and our debt service, which we didn't pay for 2022, 2023, 2024, is going to come due this year, especially that for the commercial debtors, which we didn't pay at all.
It's interesting you talk about Ghana being broke, because that was not the verdict of the former president Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo in this last State of Nation address. But take a look at this. Really, this is what Governor Kwame Agboja said before the committee today. Quote, it is a matter that's the road toll. It's a matter that has attracted national attention. Also, accrual to the road fund was only 250 million cedis. And, quote, we work to increase it to 1.5 billion cedis. Today, it is over 2 billion cedis. So we cautioned government, that's the previous administration, against cancelling the road toll. And we were surprised that they cancelled it. It was an act of illegality to cancel it. He says restoring tolls is necessary to enhance revenue collection and ensure the sustainability of road infrastructure development. So the verdict is out there on this matter, Mr. Jackson. It's quite clear in his words that if we're talking about the sustainability of road infrastructure and then also even constructing more roads and the development, he is for it. Road tolls are going to be brought back. And if you look at the manifesto, it's also captured there. But the point is that should it come in the same form that it was previously? Because the reasons for the road tolls abolition years ago was because it was causing traffic, and so on. So if it has to be brought back, it certainly has to have some modifications, is it not?
Two problems. The first problem is this. The road tolls themselves don't add to that much money. Partly because of corruption. The cash collected, there's a huge suspicion that the cash collected doesn't always end up in the pockets of the government. Road tolls are a nuisance because they create traffic. Try the Temamoto way during rush hour. Try the Kaswa toll booth during rush hour. So taking away the road tolls took away a huge irritation, illegal or not. Bringing them back doesn't bring that much tax. But in any case, every single peswa who goes into the public purse is desirable. But I'll say, if you are bringing them back, give us some automation and digitization. Let us use radio frequency identification, what we call RFID, so that I have a sticker on my car. As my car is passing, it recognizes it's my car and bills me. How does it bill me? I have to register my car and I have to give it a Momo account. If it bills me and I don't pay, at the end of the year, when I'm going to renew my roadworthy, it should bill me with a hefty fine. In any case, I can always be found because my car registration includes my national ID. So we can reintroduce it. If we do this, all the money will go into the public purse because it is collected automatically, thereby reducing any fraud or corruption that may be involved. Two, it will make it faster, so make it less of a nuisance. So the road tax must be come back. Simply because I do agree that the removal was illegal. It was done by fiat, by a minister of roads and highways without going to parliament. You can't remove tax without going to parliament. It was illegal. But if you are bringing it back, please, let's do it in a way in which it doesn't create a nuisance. And let's do it in a way in which the maximum possible revenue goes to the public purse.
The road toll, beg your pardon, was removed or abolished to make way for e-levy. That was one of the major arguments. Now, if the road toll is going to be introduced again, which taxes or levies should go? Mr. Jackson.
Listen, the conversation about which taxes should go should be a national conversation. I'll tell you why. There's only one pot, which is public purse. Each time you say a tax should go, remember something else will give. Something else will have to lose out. So as much as we don't want to pay taxes, we should know that we have to service our debt. We should know that we want free SHS over and over again. And even if it is reviewed and made more effective, it will still cost us money. You want teacher training allowances, it will cost us money. You want nurses training allowances restored, it will cost us money. You want to build schools and hospitals, it will cost us money. You want to fix your national health insurance scheme, it will cost us money. So as much as, and there's a certain expenditure rationalization that must take place, it is clear that we want to cut our coat to our size. That means that every time we take out a tax handle, there's a problem. Something must give. And if we don't increase the taxes, we may be in trouble. Because the truth of the matter is this: we are not at debt sustainability yet. The reason why we got the IMF help was largely because of geopolitics that favored Ghana, that nobody wanted Ghana as a country to go down. So we're given help. But the hard decision is that along the way, we've got to fix our problems. So we may take out some of the taxes that we dislike, but in exchange, we have to give up some of the expenditures that we love.
All right.
And we may have to make way for new taxes to come in. Taxes that are possibly more direct, like more property taxes, taxes that are more direct, and have more people paying the tax. The informal sector should get ready. They have to make a bigger contribution to the tax net.
Interesting stuff. Mr. Jackson, appreciate your time on this. Some reality check there. Thank you. Certainly, something must give. When you talk about the informal sector, there's always been that talk of expanding the tax net, identifying the informal sector, which is indeed, we have an informal sector dominated economy. Because we look at just over 20 to 30% of the formal sector making up the entire economy, and much of it made by the informal sector. But we'll see what the 2025 budget will have in there for some of these things that you talk about. Thank you so much for joining us, Joe Jackson, CEO of DLX Finance, financial analyst there. But let's go back to on the matter of the debts that are owed contractors, and quite a concern there, because you hear Governor Kwame Boja talk about just the accumulated interest on the debts, and that is even much more worrying as well. Emmanuel Cherry is the president of Ghana Chamber of Construction and Industry, is connecting with us on Zoom right now. Cherry, good evening. Thank you for joining us here on Ghana Tonight. First of all, give us a clear idea of what is happening in the industry right now with respect to how much you are owed by government.
Thank you very much. The issue before us is about the discussion we had. I quite remember the last part of the quarter 2024 with you. We stated that government was owing us approximately 15 billion thereabout. But subject to, what they call it, interrogation, because at that time, contractors were on site working. And then the portfolio of our job, anytime a contractor is on site working, there is a stated clause in the contract that if you reach a particular percentage or a stated percentage enshrined in the contract, you are to raise a requisite document stating that indeed we have executed this project, this magnitude of percentage of project, and therefore is worth being paid for. So the site engineer will give approval and then it lock in. So what then happens is most of the times you may say we have a 15 billion debt portfolio on the table, but on daily basis or weekly basis or monthly basis, you see contractors working and then submitting claims at the same time. So it keeps increasing the figures. So at times you see the government comes and say, you have paid such an amount of money to contractors and expecting the money to reduce. But surprisingly, the money will not reduce, but rather it will be appreciated upwards, all because of what? These are the technicalities around the distance. So based upon what the minister nominee or designated for roads and highways said today, is that the portfolio that they came to me, the commitment at the road sector in all is 100 billion. That speaks to the ongoing projects, the awarded project, the budgeted projects which are valid on the table. As we speak, some of them are ongoing, some of them have been completed, but they are waiting payment. Others have been completed long ago, waiting payment. Some of them too are interest on delay payments, and then the rest as well. So putting all together, that is the debt portfolio that he talks about. But currently, the certificate for payment is 20 billion on the table at the Ministry of Roads and Highways as we speak today.
I see. So 20 billion. I mean, that's just for you within the sector. That's the chamber. But then you look at the amount that the minister designate talked about, a little over 100 billion. That's it's a reflection of what you're faced with, or it could be more as we speak.
Yeah, I agree totally with him, but even subject to an interrogations, because the time that the transition team met, at the time to this time, definitely, there is definitely going to be an upwards adjustment, because contractors were on site and they have, some of them have logged in claim for payment. So definitely this figure will be a bit, adjusted upwards, if I'm not mistaken.
Pretty interesting there, to say the least. But before I let you go, I recall sometime in May last year, Mr. Cherry, the former Finance Minister, Mohamed Amin Adam, Dr. Mohamed Amin Adam, made the point that some 49 billion cedis had been paid to you, the contractors. You came out to say that you were yet to receive any indication of those monies being paid to you. From that time till now, did you receive the money? Did it ever hit your account, that money that was announced last year?
Sincerely, we heard that they made some payments, but as up to today, we keep searching, looking, finding every possible means to get who have been paid to date. We have not been able to unravel that. So if you should ask me, I cannot tell you that government of Ghana has paid such XYZ contractors as at November, December 2024.
Wow. I see. Mr. Cherry, thank you. Thank you very much for your time, and this is one that will keep the steam on. Emmanuel Cherry is the Executive Director of the Ghana Chamber of Construction Industry, joining us here on Ghana Tonight. Quite revealing there. That last point that you made is one that we'll keep an eye on and see how that matter also is interrogated in the coming days. But this is Ghana Tonight. Let's still stay a bit further on the nominees who appeared before the Appointments Committee earlier today. The Minister Designate for the Education Ministry, that's the Honorable Haruna Idrisu, the Tamale South Member of Parliament, appeared before the Appointments Committee earlier today as well. And a number of questions, in fact, were put to him. It's disclosed that first-year tertiary students who have already paid for their fees, because as we speak, the tertiary institutions, the universities, have reopened, and so the first-year students who just wrote the Obuasi, had their results, have paid fees, and they are enrolling. He says that if you're watching me right now, if you've paid for your academic fees, it will be refunded to you. That's the promise. Take a look.
On the authority of President Mahama, I'm sure his Minister of Finance, if this House approved, Honorable Atuforson, will present the reset budget of the government. It will include some provision of some 345 million cedis to cater for admission fees for students undertaking courses in the normal subject areas, not professional areas like medicine. And for President Mahama, this is a model to experiment. You will look at it. How do we fare as a country? If it is possible for expansion, then he will expand it. And he's not asked that if you are able, you should not. We know that some students have already paid their admission fees. It will be refunded to them. Honorable Leader.
Other things I spoke about, but at this moment, Kofi Asare, Executive Director of the Africa Education Watch, one of the foremost education CSOs we have in this country, is joining us on Zoom right now. Mr. Asare, good evening. Thank you for joining us here on Ghana Tonight.
Hi, good evening, Alfred, and good evening to your cherished audience.
Now, you hear some further and better particulars of that manifesto promise by the NDC for this no fees stress for these first-year university students. Now we're hearing a bit more detail from the Minister Designate, Haruna Idrisu, that that promise is now going to apply to students who are offering normal subject areas, not professional courses like medicine, and also makes the point that those who have already paid the admission fees in this category, the monies will be refunded to them. How did that strike you?
Well, on the first leg, I don't think it said anything different from the promise. Academic facilities fee is what the government is paying for. That is the fee you need to pay to honor your admission as a regular student, not as a fee-paying student. And so even science students have academic facilities fees to pay in the region of, between 2,000 and 3,000. And so the target of the policy or the promise as it is now, having engaged the NDC Manifesto, Education Manifesto Committee, is that they want to ensure that no student offered an admission, no prospective student offered an admission is unable to raise the AFUF, that's the academic facilities fee, which includes admission fee, to honor their conditional admission. Because normally when you get that letter, you have only 2 weeks to pay to honor the admission. That is the condition for the admission. And so that should be able to prevent the average student from not honoring the invitation or admission, or that should be able to support the average student from at least honoring the admission within the 2-week period. So, I mean, it's great. It's great. I was expecting that the policy, this particular policy, will be targeted so that we can reach more and more students, even beyond the public tertiary institutions. That's one benefit of targeting. But it is yet to become a policy. It's not a promise. And the government is yet to go through the process of transitioning from a promise to a policy, developing a policy framework, a roadmap, costing it. So for now, it is provisional because the government did not anticipate that this academic year will start in January. Everybody knew that the academic year would have started last year. And so I actually thought that, just like the free senior high school policy started in 2017 September, I actually thought that this one would have started in the first academic year of the regime, which would have been in September, October next year. But for some reason, the tertiary academic year delayed last year and ended up starting this year for new students. And so it has made this arrangement, and it must be acknowledged. I believe, Alfred, that the most important conversation we must have now is that many students do not have up to 3,000 cedis to pay to honor their admission or to secure their conditional admissions. There are some, as I speak now, in my inbox. They've been there since last week. And I understand, having researched into tertiary bursaries, I understand pretty much what it needs to be needy and how people struggle to raise funds to secure their admission within the 2-week period. And so what I want to ask is that the Minister of Finance and then the Minister of Education designate should work together and communicate to and have a negotiation with the public tertiary institutions that for students who have obtained their admission letters without paying the conditional admission fee, they should allow them to honor their admission. They should validate their admission, pending the reading of the budget in March, based on which the government will make good the promise and pay the money to the investors. For me, that is timely enough, or that will be timely enough to prevent genuinely poor or needy tertiary students who cannot raise the money to secure their admissions from dropping out of tertiary this year.
It's a very, very important point that you make. So to the extent that, Kofi, this repayment option would only be enjoyed by those who actually pay. But then again,
yes,
there's a challenge of those who don't have the money at all and would have relied on this intervention by government to honor their admission. So you would expect that by this time, the finance minister doesn't, well, we don't have a finance minister as yet, but you expect that there should be some engagement between the universities and the government, essentially, so that they would allow these students who have qualified to even register without paying the academic facility user fee?
Exactly, yes. So because the budget will be read in March. And so based on the budget being read, this arrangement could be made with the investors. The government will honor by making sure that cash is paid to the investors direct once the students are allowed to use the credit. We call it credit, to register and honor their admissions. It is very, very important because the essence of this policy is not just to dash students money. It's not a Christmas policy. It is meant to remove financial access barriers from prospective students who are, even though given admission, but do not have the resources to pay within 2 weeks and honor their conditional admission. For me, these are the key targets of this. And if we have to wait for the budget to be read, these key targets may miss out of tertiary education, or some of the key targets may miss out of tertiary education this year. So, yes, I appreciate that there's no substantive Minister of Education or Finance. The Chief of Staff, or the Presidency, can intervene issue a statement, engage the universities, public universities, so that we can have an arrangement of a credit sort, pending the reading of the budget and releases from the finance ministry will be made to the universities to honor this particular promise. It would be great to have this done as a transitionary measure until the policy is fully developed, fleshed out, roadmap developed, fully costed, and then the proper parameters of the policy determined. For now, it's a promise being honored rather than a policy. But then we will get there. And I'm sure that when we get to the point of developing the policy, the fine details about, why some are excluded, why some are benefiting, why some do not need to benefit, and why others are getting less, or who ought to get more to remain in school or to honor admission. All those things will be fleshed out, and I'm sure the government will consult stakeholders, including students, when developing the policy for full. But for now, this transitional provision of 340 million,
45 million, yes.
Yes, it's enough for the start, ensure that ahead of the formal budget, students who have been admission to tertiary institutions who need money, do not fall out or are not denied of access to tertiary education on grounds of financial barriers.
Yes, and the free senior high school, as was expected, was quite dominant during the questioning as well. There's a conversation about the review as has been promised by this administration. In the first 120-day promise of President John Mahama, he talks about a stakeholder engagement to look at the areas of review. How soon should this happen? Already the 120 days is as we speak, counting down.
Yeah, perhaps we've done about 14 days into the 120 days. But you see, it is not just about reviewing the free senior high school. The education conference should be to discuss pertinent issues affecting education delivery, education service, education system in our country. Many issues have never found, an opportune platform for engagement and priority attention. Many times we hold such conferences in Accra, and then only those with physical proximity advantages are able to participate. I think that this conference is not just for free senior high school, but then for the entire citizenry, parents, teachers, religious bodies, development partners, CSOs, ordinary Ghanaians to come and share their ideas about topical education issues that they believe must be confronted if we are resetting our education system, in the words of the government. Okay, so it's not just a free senior high school review. In fact, as for the free senior high school review, what the NDC said they would do, it's clear in their manifesto. There are 3 big ticket items that they said they would do. They are saying that they will expand the free senior high school to cover private senior high schools. They are saying that they will take advantage of vacancies in private senior high schools that are underutilized, since the free senior high school was declared in public schools, and take advantage of that to reduce or end double track. And then thirdly, continue to expand infrastructure, complete ongoing projects, and complete abandoned A blocks, all with the aim of ending double track. These are the 3 big ticket issues they said they would do. And then they said that they are going to decentralize feeding in senior high schools. So in terms of the NDC, they didn't promise that they will review the free senior high school. There's no such promise in the manifesto. What they said was that they were going to do these particular things and not review. And so I don't want us to box the education conference around a free senior high school. There are very, very important issues to discuss in that sector, way important than free senior high school. And we need to take certain key decisions that will fundamentally change the face of our education system. So let's open the frontiers of that dialogue, and let's not make it a free senior high school only. I am happy the minister raised the issue of the rural-urban divide. For me, that is the most important problem in our sector. Right. We have an education system where the north is totally, the mirror image, the opposite of the south. And we cannot continue to operate an education system that perpetuates inequality when education is supposed to be an instrument for re-engineering society and bridging the gap between the poor and the rich. And so we need to have a conversation, and we should take advantage of the education conference to take key decisions, in all this, and not just free senior high school.
And that conversation about even uncapping the get fund is one that we have been talking. I mean, and you have led this whole charge over the years, and
Yes,
hearing
and
him talk about it,
yeah,
4.7 billion we
yeah.
might be made available, all things being equal, for government to
No, it's
spend.
actually not. It's actually more than that. So I'm happy that the minister, hit the nail right on the head that he was going to initiate conversations with the finance minister to uncap get fund, as recommended or as promised in the NDC manifesto. If we uncap get fund, we are going to have about 48 billion cedis, almost 50 billion cedis, to invest in education, especially education infrastructure, in 4 years. If we don't uncap get fund, we are not going to have more than 18 billion. And so uncapping get fund frees about 30 extra billion. And NDC has 140 promises in the manifesto. Majority of them are infrastructural, removing school standard trees, building teacher dabre, building teacher accommodation in all new basic schools constructed, completion of abandoned e-blocks, completing ongoing senior high school projects, etc., etc., etc. They are heavily infrastructural, and the capex, the capital expenditure budget of the Ministry of Education relies over 90% on get fund. So if they don't uncap get fund, including even this tertiary money, if they don't uncap get fund, it will be difficult to implement even half of these promises. And that's why I'm happy that he has prioritized conversations around uncapping get fund with the Ministry of Finance and the IMF so that we are able to secure fully the full accruals that are paid to get fund whenever we buy any item and pay VAT. That, I think, is the right way to go, and we must also support the process of uncapping debt fund and freeing resources to support education service delivery.
Kofi, I appreciate your time on this. Thank you, as always, for joining us here on Ghana Tonight. Kofi Asare, Executive Director of the Africa Education Watch, one of the foremost education CSOs we have in this country and beyond. Also live here on Ghana Tonight. Coming up next after this quick break, we'll bring you an update on development in the Ashanti region, specifically Obuasi, in relation to their fatal clash. The Ghana Coalition on Galamsey, they've also been speaking, and our Northern Bureau Chief, who's been there over the last 48 hours, William Evans Inkum, is going to bring us some details of what's happening there right now and also the security situation there. Stay with us. We're back after this quick break.
Through every step of life's unpredictable journey, every moment counts. That's why you need a partner you can always trust for solutions, so you can be rest assured. Having impacted over 200,000 lives, processed over 4.2 million claims, partnered with over 400 corporations, paid out over 836 million Ghana cedis in claims, contracted over 1,600 healthcare facilities nationwide, and pioneered several innovations like free medicine delivery, an interactive mobile app, and more. You'll be surprised what can be accomplished in 20 years. We're part of the Nationwide family. Are you? Nationwide Medical Insurance, 20 years of leading the way.
You know, one bucket of Flamingo paint is equal to several buckets of any other paint brand on the market. Flamingo paint. Superior durability, superior height.
the miners lost their lives while others sustained life-threatening injuries. My colleague and our Northern Road Chief, William Evans Sinkum, has been to the community where this incident happened, has been talking to them. This is what they had to say. As one of the victims of this incident that happened yesterday, and it's on record 9, the death toll now confirmed 9. 4 are also in critical condition, receiving medical attention as we speak. The Ghana Coalition Against Galamsey issued a statement earlier today, and this is it. They say they acknowledge the government's mention of the need to address Galamsey in the first 120-day agenda. They are deeply concerned about the pace of action. They're formally written to His Excellency the President, urging for an immediate cease and desist order to all illegal miners and regulatory bodies. They are open for discussion to resolve the issue. The President must declare a state of emergency over water bodies and get the military to clear everyone found on the water bodies. Also, all planned and active mining concessions overlapping with river buffers should be abrogated, and all mining activities within 100 meters buffer of all rivers and streams should be halted immediately by the President, failure of which the President must implement the full force of Act 995 without fear or favor of political color and status in society. Almost all water bodies take their sources from the forest reserves. So all entry permits given to mine in protected global significant biodiversity areas must also be abrogated. Repeal of LI 2462 immediately. Remember, this was on the table for the 8th Parliament. They never got the opportunity to do that because of all the happenings in the dying moments of that 8th Parliament. Media organization, labor, organized labor, religious bodies, youth groups, research and academia, pressure groups, all groups are also called upon to also add their voices to this particular call as we speak. Engineer Ken Ashigbe is one of the conveners for the Ghana Coalition Against Galamsey. Engineer Dr. Ken Ashigbe, thank you for joining us here on Ghana Tonight. First of all, we've heard government issue a statement that they're going to, in fact, they have instructed in investigations into what happened yesterday in Obuasi. What should be the areas of concern for this investigation?
Well, so if you look at our statement, the statement really looked beyond just the issue of what had happened. And again, you know, we seem to talk only about Obuasi, but there's Contractor as well, you know, that also happened. And so what we sought to say was the fact that the challenges that we had with Galamsey before the elections, from the August time where there was this a lot of uproar because we had turbidity of water get to 14,000 NTUs, and what government had said it was going to do and did not do until now. This issue that has happened in Contractor and Obuasi is just one of the unfortunate evidence of the further decline in the situation because what has happened is that, there's been a lot of silence so far as the Galamsey fight is concerned. Unlike other areas where we had the government of corruption, where the government raised the issue of aura, where we've had some statement about people handing over their passports, where we've had the MCs and DCs being asked to step aside, state-owned enterprises, we've appointed security people. These are all very important parts of governance. But we believe that the environment is also a very, very critical part so far as governance is concerned. It's the reason why, in taking cognizance of the fact that this is a new government, this is a government that has signed a pact with Ghanaians, the pact that was signed with him. He was the first to sign it among the 8 presidential candidates who signed it. The president has also, in his 120 days social contract with Ghanaians, also indicated at number 19 that he's going to deal with the issues of Galamsey. But there's been some silence. And so that silence has led to a lot of the things that we're seeing. And in Contractor, in Obuasi, we know that what precipitated this particular action was an illegality, and it's something that has been happening for several times now. And so we believe that it is important first for government to issue a cease and desist order to all of us, the illegal and irresponsible miners, and those who are funding them, as well as tell the various regulators. There's no minister in place, but then there's an EPA, there is the Minerals Commission, there is the police, even in the assemblies, there's the coordinating directors assemblies, to let them know that there's a government and that governance continues, and this is a government that abhors the distraction. So that information is very important. But to come to your question about why we believe that the statement asking for a thorough and investigation is important, is that we need to ensure that this thing is nipped in the bud. This is not the first time. Most of the time, our advocacy, when I say advocacy, the Ghana Coalition, the Media Coalition, our advocacy on illegal and irresponsible mining have not focused so much on, the attacks on these big mines, but it's been continuing. And so it is important that we deal with this. Even if these are illegal miners, we all know that there are ways in which when an illegality occurs, how the law enforcement people should also deal with it. And we believe that the military people should also be given a hearing. We know that by the SOPs, the standard operating procedures of military, they won't shoot people who are kneeling, who have surrendered. So we need to actually investigate and find out whether what the military are saying is the correct thing, whether what these people who are engaged in the illegality, what they are saying is also the correct thing. We need to establish that first before we start, apportioning blame, and make sure that once we establish that the punishment is exacted of anybody who has done wrong. So that is very important.
Indeed, and a very important point also made in there. But as we're keeping an eye on this one as well, some relative calm has been restored to the area. But then again, there's heavy police and military presence there. So if Willem Evansinkum and the team keeping tabs on that, we'll definitely be updating you here on Ghana Tonight. Engineer Dr. Kenashigbe, thank you so much for joining us here on Ghana Tonight. In fact, on behalf of the rest of the team, we do appreciate your company. Staying with us. Join us same time tomorrow for another conversation. My name is Alfred Okonse. Have a good night.
Ghana Tonight is brought to you by Flamingo Paint. Superior durability, superior hiding, superior coverage, simply superior.